What's up, man?
Hey everyone, are you tired of the chaos, noise, and confusion? Take the simple shift and turn thoughts into action. This is Beto.
This is Brandon.
Welcome to The Simple Shift. Today, we are talking about applied word. We haven't done one of these in a while.
This is like the second episode.
This is the second episode. Yeah, this is the second time we've done this, too. So, we haven't posted in a little while either. So, well, we just did.
Yeah, we just did. We just posted.
I travel quite often. He has a busy schedule. We both have busy schedules. So we're trying to we're trying to pre-record and...
You've said this like 3 times in 3 different episodes.
Unsuccessful, obviously. Yeah. But we're doing it today. Trying.
Blue collar guy, trucker hours. This guy travels. So we're trying our best here.
But we're here. Yeah. And we're doing a podcast. Isn't it kind of cool that we have a podcast? We have this lovely studio that I built.
Mm-hmm. Got a glizzy neon.
We got a glizzy neon sign behind them. We got some monsters.
What's wrong with that? You don't like the big one?
Pause. Hey, Anthony, cut that part out, please.
Sorry, y'all.
Anthony, cut that part out.
Something was loading on my laptop, so it finally loaded.
Anyway, today we're talking about applied word. What are we talking about? What passage? Hold on.
When it comes to passages, we'll go to John.
Oh my gosh. Move your foot, dude.
John 7, what is that?
7:24. John 7:24. We forgot to have this open as we did last time.
That's okay.
But he's a professional. He does this often.
Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. Jonah, Matthew.
So, how are you guys doing today, huh?
John. There we go.
Got it?
7:24, right?
Yep.
Do not judge by appearances, but judge with right judgment. So we're talking about being quiet Christians. There's a lot of people that don't like to tend to call people out because, they don't want to come out as self-righteous and judging. But if you judge with the right judgment and you don't judge based off of appearance, then you are doing so in a right place, in the right state of mind when it comes.
Let's talk about the theology behind this real quick before we get into the details. So that is a passage. Where it comes from, to put some context behind this passage, this is a time where Jesus has been persecuted. The religious leaders are actively trying to persecute him. He had performed a miracle healing somebody on the
Sabbath.
Thank you. I had a brain fart. On the Sabbath, and the religious leaders were trying to prosecute him, saying because they're not allowed to work on the Sabbath, and they were trying to get him on that. And he called out their hypocrisy by talking about the fact that they do circumcisions during the Sabbath regardless, and that can be considered work as well.
Yeah.
So he's calling out the like I said, the hypocrisy, but the double standard there. And
heresy.
The heresy, yeah. And that's where this is coming from. So with that in mind, that double standard, the hypocrisy, we can go directly and apply this to our day-to-day lives and everyday life, and specifically towards Christians.
And even back to like the theology, the man he healed, he had leprosy. Before he was healed, the apostles were like, stay away, you're sick, he can't help you out. I kind of take it in the sense of more my sense. I paraphrase a lot when it comes to this stuff. But, hey, whoa, like you're sickly or you have a disease, get away. And Jesus looked at them like, what is wrong with you guys? This guy obviously needs help, and he healed them. And first thing they did was judge the book by its cover. They looked at the man. They're like, oh, don't touch us. Don't get away, But Jesus looked at the man as like, this is a human being that needs my help. This is somebody that needs my help, regardless of how they look. They need my help. Regardless of how they look or what they believe in, they need my help. And having that righteous judgment is very important, because a lot of people will try and judge others and try to claim that they're being righteous, but in all seriousness, they don't look within themselves first before they judge others, because that's where the hypocrisy comes in. Like how the Pharisees called out Jesus. You're healing on the Sabbath. Well, so do you. So what's your point? You guys do the same thing with circumcisions on the Sabbath. So what's your point? That's pretty much what kind of Jesus was going at. Like, it was like, well, what's your point? You guys do the same thing. So you guys are being hypocrites. At the end of the day, look within yourselves before you come to others, including, especially if you're going after the big dog, Big J.
It's a clear biases toward against Jesus as a whole, because he was being highly persecuted at the time.
Yeah.
They're trying to get him on anything.
Exactly.
So this goes directly into, I mean, I think this goes any generation, wherever we're at in life, we're so quick to judge. We're so quick to start judging actions without understanding purpose.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of fitness coaches doing this. They go online and they clip a video of somebody doing some weird movement in the gym, and they don't understand. They're passing judgment. They're making fun of these people without understanding the purpose of which they're doing and the specificity in the movement for their exact purpose. Like, we have what is the, not bobsledding, it's the sport, it's a winter Olympic sport where they grab and they run something. It's like something down, and then they hop inside of it.
Yeah, bobsledding.
It is bobsledding. Yeah, it is bobsledding. There we go. And I saw a video of somebody making fun of a girl running with a weight while she was on a treadmill, and then it revealed it was.
Oh, I think I saw that. Yeah.
But a lot of fitness coaches, a lot of people who work out pass judgment without understanding the purpose.
Right.
And I personally, unfortunately, I used to do this, but more internally, I wouldn't go around saying it and posting about it. But I was like, oh man, when I got really into fitness and I was super mechanical, and like, I consider myself very knowledgeable in fitness, where I wasn't as knowledgeable as I would like to say, as I would have liked to be. And I was passing judgment, though internally it was still passing judgment upon not understanding the purpose in which somebody's doing something. Now I'm doing those fucking movements. Sorry,
He's working on it.
I'm doing some of those weird, unconventional workouts in my powerlifting routine that some people will pass judgment upon me for doing. And I have a specific purpose for doing them.
Yeah, I had some of that stuff too when it came to like the dumbbell bench, where I'd lay on the bench doing people, why do you do that? And, explain to them why. I'm like, oh, that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
And I guess when it comes to the topic of being a quiet Christian, there's a lot of people will choose to not say anything at all.
We didn't bring up that topic.
Yeah, we did. I said it at the beginning.
What's wrong with that?
Again, the video.
I was just like, oh.
Just turn down your volume.
There you go.
Sorry.
There.
Anthony, cut that part out.
Anyways, but yeah, no, I brought up quiet Christians.
Oh, okay.
But a lot of people who are Christian, they tend to stay quiet because, again, no one's perfect. No one's going to have all righteousness within themselves.
There's a balance.
There's a balance between it. Obviously, if you're being a hypocrite and you're calling somebody out for something that you do as well, then you got to kind of take a step back. But if you're firm and you know that, you can discern from something, and you see somebody that you love, you care about doing that thing that that can, lead them astray, lead them away from their walk in faith. If they have they're in their walk of faith, even if they're not, you can still pass that judgment to them from a place of endearment, a place of love.
It's a righteous judgment. It's purposeful. It's
purposeful, but it comes from a place of love, because I'll judge you. I'm like we've said before to each other, I'm not your yes man. If I see you doing something that I know you don't believe in, and I know that it's like against your standard and your faith, I'm going to call you out on
That's why he told me to take off my hat.
Yeah, whatever. Besides the point. But, but if, say, I'm doing the same thing right next to him, but then I'm like, oh, man, I'm going to say something to Brandon. But he can turn around and be like, well, you're doing the same thing. It's like, dang.
It's the whole glass house.
Yeah, the glass house, exactly.
Glass house concept.
But you can't like Brandon said, you can't measure behavior without the understanding of truth.
That was mine.
I read it out there. That's a good one.
It is a good one. He took my line. I wrote that one down on a whiteboard, and you stole it from me.
I mean,
It was
they're
my
up there
wisdom.
for both of us. Well, here's my wisdom. You have to judge inward before you
Oh, I
judge
use
outward.
righteous judgment. I didn't know that you wrote that down, but I did use yours too. So
We
what?
brainstorm
All right.
before we do this.
Yeah, we do. We do. We have a whiteboard off the side.
Like I said, judging inward before outward, having the discernment to judge yourself before judging others. But again, don't be a quiet Christian. If you see something that's wrong within your community, within your faith, whether it's in your church, whether it's from a fellow Christian, call them out. You're allowed to call them out, but be ready to be called out as well. Don't get into a place of, well, you can't call me out because I called you out. No, you better be ready to get called out by other people for what you're doing as well. And you have to be understanding that it's all coming from a place of love. Because I feel like a lot of people that are Christian that get called out or call people out, they'll tend to come from a place of, I guess, for lack of a better word, snobbiness. I know more than you. I have more,
it's an arrogance.
it's an arrogance towards it. And that's always where things collide and people clash. But it's just like, oh, you think you're better than me because you know more, or you're more in your word and this like that. It's not the fact that I'm better than you. I want better for you. I'm not better than you, but I want better for you.
I had a conversation with a client not too long ago, the past few days actually. We're talking about boundaries and setting boundaries, and how it might sound inverse to the whole Christian, like loving your neighbor, loving everybody else, to call people out for what they're doing, call people out and confront them in general. It almost has a bad taste of bringing forth negative thoughts. What they're doing is wrong, telling people what they're doing is wrong. It's almost, I think we fall into this trap of being religious, being Christian means we're not allowed to place judgment upon others. And that is far from the truth. There's a balance. You have to have a side of you that is capable of righteous judgment. If you care about somebody, if you care for another fellow Christian, your friends, your loved ones,
Your church members.
due diligence to call them out. You are responsible for that, because if they're in your life and they are overstepping boundaries in your life, but you don't tell them that, you are building resentment for that person, and it's going to hurt the relationship in the long run. Give them the opportunity to mend their wrongdoings. That is your responsibility, to call them out, give them the chance to remediate, to help build themselves as someone who cares for them. If you don't, you are doing them a great disservice. There's a righteous judgment that needs to be upheld upon fellow Christians, upon the ones you love, that it needs to be implemented.
Because whether they change or not, you're planting the seed of discernment within them. So they can think about that later on. Maybe after the disagreement, they're like, man, maybe he was right. You plant the seed to get them to think in ways that they weren't thinking before, having a simple shift. But it gives them that place of, okay, this person probably was trying to help me. He probably wasn't trying to just judge me and think he's better than me. Maybe they don't. And maybe they don't think that way. Maybe they do take it to heart and the relationship is broken. And if it breaks to the point where you guys can't talk anymore, then, so be it. Pray for them and continue to move on. If they're going to continue to be in your life, just reiterate to them, like, it's coming from a place of love and endearment. It's not coming from a place of, I think I'm better than you, or I think you're doing something wrong. But that's I feel like that's a big thing too, is to reiterate where you're coming from.
Of course, made sure they know it's a place of love.
Because a lot of people will take you judging, or not even me saying you're judging them, but you talking to them about something is, you're coming after me.
Yeah, creating boundaries, it is judgment, but it's purposeful judgment. It's there for a reason. And we have to be very careful, because there is a fine line between purposeful judgment, righteous judgment, and judging for the sake of judging because you don't like what somebody's doing. And that has to be understood. Like the passage specifically was about hypocrisy. That if you are actively doing something you shouldn't and you are placing judgment for the same reason onto another, you need to fix yourself or else you cannot properly fix another. Exactly. And we always hear these people who give relationship advice when they have terrible relationships.
Yeah.
That relationship advice usually isn't actually good. It sounds good in the moment, but it usually isn't because they don't have the experience. They have the glass house and they're unable to properly help.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't want a bald barber. You don't want a fat you don't want a fat fitness coach. You got to walk the walk before you can truly help and serve another human being.
Yeah. That's a good. Wow, that's true.
All right.
There is some truth to that.
Yeah.
Yes. 100%. But
not to talk crap on the bald barbers because there are some good ones.
Yeah. Maybe
usually they're in
bald.
movies.
Maybe they just went bald.
Yeah. Well.
You never
Yeah.
know.
I mean, I guess bald barbers.
You have to understand the truth behind their reasoning of being bald.
Yeah, but the fat fitness coach is a little.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Maybe they were skinny at one point and then they got fat and then they didn't. I don't know.
Well,
I don't know. Besides, that's off topic.
They don't walk the walk. That's the point.
Yeah,
you have to walk the walk before you
But-
can place righteous judgment for specific reasons.
Yeah, because like even the Apostle Paul, he wrote letters to the Galatians, the Corinthians, to the Philippians, all these church leaders, calling them out on everything that they were doing wrong, but coming from a place of love because he's like, hey, we need to come together as a church. We need to come together as a faith of Christianity. But we can't because you guys have differences in theology, differences in, practice, sexual immorality within the church or within your church members, all these things. But, you have to fix those things to be able to connect and continue to be that community of Christians, because if everybody's doing their own thing and everybody believes in different things, then at the end of the day, you guys don't believe in the same thing. You're just stuck in this cycle of, well, they believe this, they don't believe that, but they're Christian too. But it's like, okay,
It's a internal.
and I feel like that's always been a thing with the churches, the different, I don't know if they call them sects or what do they call them? Denominations.
Yeah.
The denominations, Catholic, Orthodox, Protestant,
Right.
Presbyterian, all these different. And
Pescatarian.
Pescatarian? No, it's Presbyterian.
Yeah, you're right. I was just joking. It was a joke. Joke.
But they all, in some way, have some differences and similarities. But I've always, even growing up as a kid, when I've heard that there was differences within the church, it's like, why aren't we all supposed to just believe in the Son, believe in Jesus, hold to the standard of the commandments? And then, you'll tell that to somebody who's in a different denomination. Like, well, we believe this. And then you go to another denomination. Well, we believe this. Well, they don't believe that. Well, they're not, the way they believe is different.
They're not us.
Why is it different?
They're wrong.
Why is it? Where in here does it say you're supposed to differ from the others?
Yeah.
And I learned this about, the Orthodox Church. I learned this from one of the deacons at the church that I go to. Is like, if you go to an Orthodox church anywhere in the world, they're all doing the same thing. They're all preaching the same thing.
Yeah.
They're doing the sacraments. Every service will be similar.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, that's crazy. And I read into it. It's true. And I used to go to a big church. It was non-denominational. It was good. It makes you feel good. It made me feel good for a while, but then it got to a point. I remember texting you about it. I got to a point where I was just like, I don't feel connected to the Lord being here. That was just me. Maybe there's people that go to that church still, and they do feel connected, and they feel, have that connection with the Lord there. But for me, I just lost it in the theatrics of it, where, and then somebody explained it to me this way. And a lot of non-denominational churches, we're facing whoever's preaching, and they're facing us. So it's like, I don't know how they explained it.
It's almost like you're listening to the preacher's words, not God's.
Right. And when I started going to an Orthodox church, most of the time the preacher is not facing us.
Yeah.
Or the father, I should say, is not facing us. He is facing the Lord. You know, they have the shrine, they have the paintings. He's facing that. And that's when he's talking, he's facing that way. He's doing the sacraments. It's kind of almost like a Catholic church. And I felt deeply connected going to church there. And it was like a sense of, I wouldn't say relief because there's no relief. It wasn't a relief, but it was a sense of, ooh, this is what church is supposed to, you know, belonging. And this is how church is supposed to be.
Sure.
And, you know, the sacraments was another thing because, you know, growing up in the Catholic Church, they always did the sacraments. They did the walk with, you know, the cross and everything. And then when I started going to a non-denominational church, they didn't do that. And I never really asked why. I probably should have. I should have asked why. I probably will ask why later on. Why they don't do the sacraments. They only do them like once a month. And it's like, I never understood that. You know, it says in, you know, in the word, you're supposed to take the sacrament, you know, the blood of Christ, the flesh of Christ. And again, like I said, there's a bunch of differences in the churches. And like, I never understood why it's like that.
Yeah.
Which is kind of shied me away from going to church, which it shouldn't. You know, you do need community when it comes to church.
Yeah, I think that's another important part. One, you have to find the church that you fit with, that you like. Like, I personally don't like certain things. Like, I don't care for the singing. Like, the bands and the singing, I don't care for those too much. There's certain aspects that you find that you will like. And I would implore you to search for the right fit for you. And it's okay to explore and look around to find what denomination really works for you. It doesn't really, it matters, but where you go to church matters significantly less than what you do outside of church.
100%.
100%. In church is just, it's a community.
It's a community.
And that's what it creates.
We're supposed to gather together.
That's great.
When one or two gather together, the Lord is with you. But back to the quiet Christian part of that, of, you know, yes, the church is supposed to, where you should go to church, but being outside of church, there's a lot of people that go to church and they are not who they are when they're at church. Granted, no one is perfect. I understand this. But when they're at church, they're, oh, you know, they're very nice. They're very this. But when they're outside of church, like there's this lady, when I was younger, this is what shied me away from religion, church, everything. At the church, she was this nice lady and everything. But outside of church, she would talk
mad poop
against me and my brother. She lived across the street from my aunt's house. At the time, granted, me and my brother were going through our little emo phase. We had long hair. We wore black all the time.
Yeah,
that means absolutely nothing. Means appearance, again, back to what we said. Don't judge a book by its cover.
Yep.
The appearance meant absolutely
It doesn't matter
nothing.
that he had black fingernails and eyeliner.
I didn't do that. I just had the long hair, and I used to wear beanies all the time. I was a skater. This lady would always tell my mom, like, "Oh, your sons, they worship the devil, and you know the things they wear, and all these things." And until one point, I remember me, my mom, and my brother. We went to church. We were dressed the way we were dressed. I didn't think it was anything wrong with the way I was dressed. This lady comes from out of nowhere. I guess she was one of the people handling the procession. And she tells my brother, "Take your beanie off." And my brother's like, "No, I'm not going to take my beanie off." She's like, "You need to take your beanie off. You're in the church. You're in the house of the Lord," in Spanish. "You need to take off your beanie. You can't be dressed like that. You guys look like devil worshippers," blah, blah, blah. And my brother's like, "No," because my brother has had stuff with his hair where he's like, "All right, I'm going to just hide it so he doesn't have to really deal with it in public." This lady snatched his beanie off his head. And my brother flipped. Like, he, in front of everybody during the mass, he flipped out. I was like, yeah, I would have flipped out too. And I kind of walked out with him. He was, "F this, I'm out. I'm gone. Like, I'm leaving." He told my mom, "I'm out. I don't want to be here." And I left too. I was like, because I looked at that and I was like, damn, this lady acts like she's the high priest in here and she's all nice to everybody. But then when it comes to me and my brother, even outside of the church, she was just mean. She was just, ugh. And so I was like, yeah. I started to see how it was, like, how other people acted outside of the church. I was like, man, you guys are fake. You're the fakest I've ever seen. And I was so young, so I was like, dang, I'm learning this at a young age. People are fake. Like, this is just terrible. But then growing up, seeing things for what they were, I was like, well, you know, people are going to be the way they are. That's not who I'm going to be, you know? But yeah, it's just that being, and I guess she wasn't being a quiet Christian. She was thinking, she was judging. Maybe she was thinking she was judging from a righteous place. But again, back to what we said, the truth, understanding the truth is the fact that my brother had a little bald spot. So it was like, I don't want to show that. If she would have known that, she probably wouldn't have flipped out on him. But then she just, it was crazy the way she did it.
Yeah, people act without understanding. They judge without understanding. And
Yeah.
I would implore that you, before your judgment, before imploring righteous judgment upon another, you get full understanding and full perspective on who they are, what they're going through, the things they're doing. I mean, there's blatant wrong acts.
100%.
There's blatant, like cheating, stealing,
The Ten
littering,
Commandments.
whatever. The 10 Commandments, of course. Yeah. And those are clear as day. But there is a lot of things that aren't fully seen and perceived, and we have to perceive. We have to bring awareness before we can take action.
Have discernment.
Correct.
Have to have discernment. That's
Right.
one thing, big thing I learned. I used to call it my gut feeling, or I have this strange feeling, but it was always just discernment of knowing, like, yeah, I don't know about this. This is wrong here. But once I got into my faith, I learned, like, oh, that was the Holy Spirit talking through me. Like, this isn't right. This is wrong. Speaking out on it was a different thing, though. Growing up, now it's like I'll say whatever.
Yeah, if you believe it's right, you should probably say it.
No.
If you believe it's wrong, you should probably call it out. Yeah, we definitely need to call out the ones we love and confront them. We had a group call on this at one point. Think of the conversations you're avoiding. Because we all have those conversations we've been avoiding. And they take up space in our head. Feel that space. Understand the space it's taking up. And the pain, the mental capacity to withhold those conversations within you and not bring them to the forefront. Build that resentment that's building up inside of you because you're not having these conversations. Feel it. Understand it. Sit with it. Ask yourself, what happens what's the worst thing that can happen if I confront this person?
Yeah.
What's the best thing that can happen? And go act, execute, confront, use righteous judgment to confront those you love.
Pray about it. That's a big thing too. Use your prayer to ask the Lord to help you understand why you're feeling these ways, how to go about speaking to somebody about it. That's a big thing too. And confronting. The biggest thing about the confrontation, though, is come at it as a way of, like, you're not trying to, offend anybody. Which is really hard in today's day and age. You're not trying to offend anybody, but, just coming at a place of understanding with them. Like, I'm trying to understand what they're trying to tell you. But obviously, if what they're telling you is completely wrong and they see it in their eyes as right, you don't agree with it, you don't have to agree with it.
Yeah, and have some understanding.
We can agree to disagree with. No. When it comes to your faith as a Christian, you cannot agree to disagree. It's your faith, and that's it. If they can't agree, then, as long as you fill that space in your mind that you did something about it, you pray about it, and you can actually plant the seed of discernment within that person. Maybe that seed won't grow, Sides of mustard seeds are the seeds that we're planting when it comes to faith. So if it grows, it grows. If it doesn't, the Lord will handle it. The Lord will allow it to grow in the time it needs to.
Yeah, some people just aren't ready to hear what needs to be said, and that's okay. They will grow at their own rate, God willing, and it's not up to you to make them understand. They are complicit in their offense, in the offense that they are taking. You cannot force offense onto another. let's make that very clear. You are unable to offend somebody. That is not true. You cannot offend anyone. If someone is offended, that is on them, not you. I think that has to be taken. That has to be very clear here.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, the only one who can decide if they're offended is you.
Oh, yeah.
If I'm offended by something, that's on me. If you say something to me and I'm offended, I'm the one taking it. I'm the one who chooses to be offended.
Right.
Because
Okay.
you cannot force me to be offended.
Right.
You can say something trying to be offensive, sure. The only one who decides if I'm offended is me.
Okay.
So if you are talking
That
to
makes more
somebody
sense.
out of love, if you are setting boundaries to somebody out of love, you are unable to truly offend them. They are complicit in that offense that they are taking.
I like that.
I think it was a good episode. We want to hold there.
Yeah. I like that. We can end it there. That's a good way to end it right there.
All right, guys. Thank you. This is Applied Word. Second episode.
Second episode.
John 7:24. I implore you, read it and understand it and execute. Love y'all. Bye.